What it do, YouTube? It's Kindu, and I'm going to be showcasing what I think to be the best Stasis Titan build. The gameplay I'm about to show you is me testing it out in the Grandmaster Nightfall this week. As you saw in the thumbnail, we're going to be using the Agar Scepter, and along with that, we're going to be using the Hoarfrost, which is going to make our ability uptime basically infinite. All of our abilities are going to make glacial objects, which can be destroyed, so then we could proc Phantom Might for all of our Stasis weapons. I'll get more into that later. And pairing Phantom Might with the Catalyst for this weapon makes for crazy DPS, as you just saw. But without wasting any more time, if you find this video helpful by the end of it, be sure to like and subscribe. And for returning viewers, we ended up hitting that goal of 500, so thank you all for that. Now let's get into the video. So for this first segment, I wanted to get straight into damage numbers, so I did some damage testing on the pit boss to see how much of an increase that will actually be doing. So starting off, each tick is going to do 1085 damage without any buffs. Now when we proc our weapon boost with Font of Might, we're going to do an increase of 25% damage. But with the Agar Scepter Catalyst, we're going to be able to do even more than just 25%. So now when we proc Font of Might along with the Catalyst, we're going to do the highest 2562 damage. And that's going to be a 136% damage increase. The other weapon I wanted to talk about for boss damage numbers is the Reed's Regret, which you get from Trials, and it's going to be going away this season. So as you can see, base damage, it's going to be doing around 32k per shot. And Font of Might's damage increase never changes, so it's still going to be a 25% damage increase. I just want to talk more about rolls that you want to get on this weapon so then you could do the most damage possible. The best roll that you want on this weapon is Triple Tap and Firing Line, and Firing Line is going to give you a 20% buff in damage if you're standing by 2 or more allies. Now that's the roll I wish I had, but instead I have Triple Tap and Focus Fury, which still gives me a 20% damage boost with Focus Fury if I land enough headshots. Now I want to get into both of the exotics we're going to use and the perks on them. So the first exotic I want to talk about is the Agar Scepter, and the perk on it is called Agar's Call. Final blows with this weapon generate a slowing burst around the defeated target, and the other one is just transfer ammo to this weapon's magazine from reserves. So when we get final blows with this weapon, it's going to cause the target to burst into this stasis energy that freezes targets around them. And then when them other frozen enemies are killed, it's going to let us continuously shoot because it's going to keep taking ammo from our reserves. Now for the catalyst on this weapon, which is a random drop from playlist activities, it is called Will Given Form, alternate weapon action, so basically you just hold your reload button. Drain super energy, overflowing the magazine and empowering the beam with bonus damage and the ability to slow and freeze targets until the magazine or super energy runs out, or the weapon is stowed. Can only be activated when super energy is full. So when you do end up proccing this catalyst for the bonus damage, it's going to be slowly taking your super energy away until you either put your weapon away or until the super energy is completely gone. The other exotic that we're going to be pairing with this weapon is the Hoarfrost Z, and the perk on it is called Glacial Fortification, which is when using the Stasis subclass, your barricade becomes a wall of stasis crystals that slows nearby targets when created. Standing behind this barricade will grant you and your allies increased weapon reload speed, stability, and range. Wearing this exotic is going to allow us to loop our abilities even more, so we basically have infinite abilities. The exotic doesn't only have to be used for Font of Might, so if you wanted to go to a large group of ads or go to a spawn location of ads and just pop one there to freeze them instantly, then you could do that. So you can use this offensively or defensively, it doesn't matter. So now let's get into the abilities that we're going to be running. So the first ability you're going to want to have is the Rally Barricade, and it is create a small barrier that you can peek over while aiming down sights that increases weapon reload speed, stability, and range when you stand behind it. And it's basically doing the same thing that our chest piece can do. Before we get to the next ability, I just want to show you an example of how fast you reload with and without the barricade. So now the second ability is Shiver Strike, which is hold input to leap through the air. Releasing unleashes a powerful dash attack that knocks targets back and damages them. Now honestly, this is more used for movement, but we're going to use an aspect that lets us use our melee in a different way. And speaking of which, that brings us into our first aspect, which is Howl of the Storm. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to launch a wave of stasis energy forward that freezes targets and creates stasis crystals. And here's an example of what it looks like in action, so it's going to be able to get us Font of Might when we break the crystals, and it's going to be good for ad control. And almost forgot, you're going to want to use the Glacier Nade, and when you throw this down, you're going to be able to destroy him, so then you could get Stasis Crystals from him, so then you could proc Font of Might. Now getting into the second aspect, it's going to be Tectonic Harvest, and it is shattering a Stasis Crystal creates a Stasis Shard. This shard grants melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. Now we're really going to be focusing on the first half of the description for this because we really want these stasis shards from these crystals that we're destroying, and we're going to pair it with a mod that allows us to proc Font of Might. Now getting into the fragments, the first one you're going to want to put on is Whisper of Rending, and it is kinetic weapons do increased damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. So this is really good because the Aegir Scepter is in the kinetic slot, so when we use one of our abilities to make one of them glacial crystals, we can destroy it easily by just shooting it. And it's also going to be nice to do even more damage on top of stacking everything else with it. The second fragment is Whisper of Fissures, which is increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. Our abilities on top of this just gives us so much ad control of just freezing everything in our way, so that's a good reason why you would want to run this fragment. The third fragment is Whisper of Shards. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional stasis crystals increases the duration of this benefit, and that's going to give us plus 10 resilience. This is just a way to get our grenade back faster, so then we could destroy it to proc Font of Might. The last fragment is Whisper of Conduction, and it is nearby stasis shards tracked to your position, and this is going to give us plus 10 resilience and plus 10 intellect. And this is equivalent to the mod Seeking Wells, so we don't have to run to get these stasis shards that are going to give us Font of Might. Before we get into the mods, I want to talk about the stats, and the stats you want to focus on is resilience. Make sure that's 100, get your discipline to at least 80, I have mine at 90, and your recovery at least 80, I have mine at 80. And also the dim link will be in the description below in case anyone skipped to this chapter of the video and didn't see it at the beginning. Getting into the mods, on the head armor you're going to want Trace Rifle Ammo Finder so it's easier for us to find some ammo for our Trace Rifle, and then you're going to want Harmonic Siphon. Rapid weapon final blows with damage matching your subclass type creates Orb of Power. And then in the last slot you're going to want Font of Might, and we're going to be running several of those. For the arm mods, we're going to want to run Grenade Kickstart. When your grenade energy is fully expended, you gain grenade energy. And then in the second slot, it's Fastball, which just lets you throw your grenades farther. You can replace this with a champion mod if you want. And then in the last slot, which is so important, is Elemental Shards. And this is going to act as if it's an elemental well for stasis. So with Font of Might, we have to pick up an elemental well that matches our subclass energy. So now, with these elemental shards, we're going to be able to destroy our class abilities and then get these shards to proc Font of Might for us. For the chest mods, you're going to have Thermal Shock Plating, which is solar and arc damage resistance, and then you're going to make sure your chest piece is void, so then you can run this mod, which is void resistant, so then you can take less damage from all three elements, and then in the last slot, have Font of Might. For the leg mods, you're going to have Insulation, which is reduces class ability cooldown each time you pick up an Orb of Power, and then Better Already, which is your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an Orb of Power. And then in the last slot, you're going to want another Font of Might, and there's a reason why we're stacking a lot of these. And the reason is going to be within these mods. So the first two mods are Utility Kickstart. When your class ability energy is fully expended, you gain class ability energy. And then in the last slot is Elemental Time Dilation. Elemental well mods that grant you time-limited benefits can now stack, increasing the duration of the effect of each copy of the mod you have equipped. So now basically pairing this with a Font of Might mod on, if we had 2 Font of Mights on, it would be a shorter duration for more damage than if we had 3 of them on. So since we have 3 of them on, we're going to have 20 seconds of being able to do 25% more damage. Right here, I just wanted to show the cycle of how easy it is to get your abilities back by just spamming everything at a lot of enemies. Hope you enjoyed the video or found it helpful. I will see you in the next one. Be sure to check out some of my other videos that also explain in detail a lot of what goes into a build. See you in the next one. Peace.